motivation in posting it because when you have a whole bunch of friendships and relationships and people that you see socially, and then you have a child.
You need something in that cup. I saw you try to drink out of it, and it was really awkward.
I was laughing at myself.
I did. I saw the little smirk.
Okay, before we go to John,
okay.
I want to just come clean and confess. Earlier, I took a sip from my cup and there was nothing in it because I felt self-conscious because it was just sitting there. But now I have water. Thank you, John, for putting water in my cup. So now I have something to drink.
All right.
Melody,
We're back. Okay.
what's going on here?
We
Did you
didn't plan
spy
this.
into my room when I was getting ready this morning? I don't understand. And not only that, but so little sneak peek into how we record. We do can I say?
Yeah.
We do 4 episodes at a time, and so we come with a couple of different alpha changes.
Yeah.
So not only did we bring the same pattern of clothing, but we chose to wear them at the exact same time. We don't look at each other when we pick our clothes.
Yeah, we just
put them on and then turn around and
had decided it was our second outfit. So,
which is actually quite nice because it's the sense of being in the same vibe, having a similar mindset. Feels very community oriented. Was that a stretch to get us to our topic today?
Okay. All right. I see what you did there. All right. Well, so let's this is
I'm feeling heated already. We were prepping for this. Whenever we prep for our episodes, we literally just take a topic, we talk it through, and then we're like, cool, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I have thoughts.
Yeah, you have thoughts. All right. So, we're going to talk about, is tango community your community? And this is inspired by a post, our friend Saeed. So he was saying, would you consider the tango community your community? He means in its common sense, we're going to talk about what that means. What is a community? He says, after 18 years of being in tango community, in quotes, I've come to the conclusion that tango community is more of an illusion than my real community. And this is somewhat independent of how we might seem close or far to each other at Malangas. Sure enough, there are people in the scene whom I actively cannot stand. That's fair. They're no different than a piece of furniture to me.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about that. But even with people whom I spend time at Malangas or enjoy dancing with, many of them forget about me the moment I step out of the room, as I do the same to them, about them. Of course, we can enjoy each other's company, blah, 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 but who is my community? And then he talks about what community is for him. So,
really quickly, he mentioned his real community. Do you have any idea what that means?
Yes. So I think to him, he means the people that he can really rely on, the people that are there for him, the people that celebrate if he succeeds, the people that would be there if he's in the bottom.
And he has already a real community.
And he's saying
outside of tango.
He says that there are people in the tango community he would consider part of it, but most of them it's not. And so therefore it is an illusion. Okay.
I'll let you go first.
All right. So, I think we have to define community. And I think that this definition is really different for each person. And this is part of the thing Saeed and I talked about a little bit in this post. To me, community, there's your broader community. I would say that I'm part of multiple communities, right? It's I'm part of the Vienna community. That doesn't mean that every person in Vienna is going to celebrate if I succeed. In fact, I know that there are people in Vienna
do they even know you?
that don't know me or that my success they would see as somehow impacting them and they would actually not like me to succeed, right? But there are people in the Vienna community that are oh, well, she's also from Vienna, so if she's succeeding, I'm happy, right? And there are people that I don't really know that I would also feel the same, right? If a restaurant opens, I'm ooh, now we have something cool here. I'm hoping for their success just because geographically we're in the same place, right? Then let's say we have our social communities. Okay, so for me, that's Rotary. I love my Rotary community. Does it mean that I'm BFFs with everybody in Rotary? No. Does it mean I even know everybody's name in my Rotary? No, because we might not have really interacted on a deeper level, but I care about them still. We have a common shared goal, a shared purpose. That's what draws us together. The tango community, we have a shared goal and a purpose, and that we want to be able to do this thing that we love. So there is some part of our life that we're devoting toward bettering that, whether it's just going to classes, being at the Malangas, learning, like, yes, I have my own personal journey, but I'm part of this community, and my success is also impacting other people in this community, whether I like it or not. If I walk away, they may not care. It is going to impact the community in some way. Like Jon and I have this conversation where there was a large cohort of people that started around the time I did that are gone now. That impacts our community. Even if, like, sometimes I might see a face in a picture and I'm like, oh, right, that person that I couldn't even remember their name, they were still part of that community and they still had some impact, right? So
I agree with you that there are different types of communities. So it's really good to be clear up front what we mean. There are communities that we are part of by default, just because of how we look, where we live, where we frequent, right? There are communities that we are part of because we choose to be in that space, and other people also choose to be in a similar space, whether it's, like you said, your Rotary. For me, it's, what do I do outside of tango? Not much.
Salsa?
I'm not really part of the salsa community. No, but it's not something that I like actively go into. I like peek in and out of it, right? But still, it's like tango, right? In that sense, it's like I choose to be in a space. Other people choose to be in a space. I do it regularly. It's now something that is consistent long enough to be considered one of my communities. And then I think what Saeed was getting to is like your closer, supportive network of people. And I think that's what he defined his community as, which is a type of community. And I think, so let's just separate that. So right now we're talking in the context of a support system, essentially. I don't think that you can have a support system just by luck. I don't think it's something that you just happen to be a part of. Like, the people that are in that support system all actively pay into it with the amount of give and take that is associated with it. So it's like when you have a mentor, you have a mentor. You're not going to know that they're not your mentor, maybe, right? So it's like you're going to know that you're part of this network. So to ask whether or not tango broadly, the group of people within one location that all happen to frequent similar events, should be automatically considered a viable solution for a support network, I think no.
Right. Well, and let's add in, like, because tango, our common goal is dance, right? It's not that we're saying, okay, we have some kind of moral value, we have some code of ethics outside of, like, safe space. No, you go to a church is your community.
Yes, absolutely.
You have some shared moral value. That's why Rotary, we have shared moral value. We have a pledge. There's a 4-way test, right? So, okay, so that's a really important piece of it. But those people that are your core group, usually, in my experience, you're pulling them from all of your different communities, from your different walks of life, your job. You might meet your best friend working, your college, your, wherever you're frequently, we form communities in these places. I mean, I'm sure that if you go to, let's say, a place where you throw pottery and you're showing up there every week, some of those people may end up as part of your core community. But I would say, like, there's a broader sense.
And even more, just because someone is a close friend may not necessarily make them a member of your supportive network. I don't think so.
Oh.
I think because you're different relationships, no matter how close and close, meaning you've known each other for a long time, you're open, you both know a lot about each other's lives, but it's not an automatic that means that if something happens, that person needs to be there for you.
True. Okay,
that's what I mean.
That's true.
Like, there needs to be some sense of, if something happened and that person showed up for you, great. Now they've become part of your supportive community, and then you can do things. If you needed something, then you can tag. Maybe first you start with your close friends and you say, hey, close friend 1, I'm in this spot right now. I really need additional support. Can you help me? And if they step in, now they're part of your support. So I think there's a bit of, or maybe you don't ask, but someone, whether within your close or peripheral communities, notice it and they step in, then they become part of that support. So I don't buy into the idea of having, just because we know each other, just because I've seen you every single week for 10 years, that means now that you are part of this support network.
Yes. Okay. But there's more I want to add to that. Okay. So I think it actually has to do with vulnerability. So I think the people that you have maybe tested a little vulnerability, you've been able to share things that are a little more intimate, and you've then also received a bit of that. That's where really deep connections form. And sometimes it's a byproduct of something you didn't expect. Like I gave a friend a ride home from a Malanga every single Monday night, right? We formed a really deep friendship. It's Sasha.
How did I know?
Right? Because we were having conversations. It wasn't that we formed that friendship sitting at the Malanga for 3 hours every Monday. It's that we formed the friendship on those 20-minute drives home.
And then over time,
and then we were there for each other.
Yes.
And then we were there.
That's the next step after, right? And I think people confuse the connection with the support. So I imagine it like in tango terms is like when you can dance with someone and both be on axes where you both give and take equally, like that is great. That is a good close friend. If you can dance in a off axis position where one person has to support the other, or you both support each other, that is a support network. So you can be close friends, but not necessarily be the close friends that happen to also support each other.
Well, but I think also, or rather, that's a great analogy.
Rather, you shouldn't assume it, and or if that person doesn't give it, you shouldn't. What I really mean to say is, if someone's your close friend, your shared axes, if they don't give you the support that you need, I think I wouldn't assume that person no longer is a close friend. I would just say that's not a close friend that I can rely on for these things, but I can still rely on them for conversations about other things.
And at that time.
Yeah.
Because I think in friendships, like, I do think it's natural that friendships can ebb and flow. Sometimes there's periods of closeness, sometimes it's a little bit looser. And this is an important thing, especially when we're talking about this original post. The author is a relatively new father, okay? He has a young child. And those first years of life, you're forming a new community typically with other parents that are going through the same thing as you. And I understand, I think I understand the motivation in posting it, because when you have a whole bunch of friendships and relationships and people that you see socially, and then you have a child and you're in a different phase of life, it's very easy to feel like suddenly you're lacking what you once had because you don't have the same opportunities you had. The cost to go out is higher, just even not even monetarily. It's just time. It's just exhausting. It's exhausting to take a baby, everywhere you go, especially once they're 2 and they want to get into everything, right? So it's like you want to find other people that are going through the same thing, and other people that, like, if your kid is sitting at the table like screaming its head off, other parents are going to be like, well, whatever. But if somebody doesn't have children, typically they're going to be like, what is going on, right? So it's very natural to gravitate for your close friendships to become people that are also having a shared experience with you. But life is a journey, and then things change. And what I've found, because my kids are teenagers, is those close friendships you had where your common thread was only that you had children, maybe 1 or 2 stay. The rest of them end up dissipating when you don't need each other anymore, right? And then they're in the periphery of your community. Maybe you have little touch points every once in a while, but that's it.
In a way, I think that's kind of describing our tango relationships. It's like we all need this thing together, and it lasts for as long as we need it together. And when we don't, the ones that stay are the ones that had maybe a more of a supportive or different type of connection with each other.
That it wasn't tango that kept you connected.
And I think what makes it challenging, which is a whole nother topic, which we may or may not agree to disagree, but like we were saying before, the environment of tango can make you feel in a broader sense, not in the dance necessarily, but in a broader sense, can make you feel like you are close superficially.
Yeah.
Because you're in an intimate space with people on a recurring basis.
Yeah.
Imagine if you travel to a marathon, right? And it's like, it's like a camp. It's like the feeling. It's like the feeling of going to camp and coming back and feeling like, I made all these amazing best friends, and then you never see them ever again.
Yeah.
So it's like these high bursts, high connective moments that happen because of all of like the chemicals and the hormones and the endorphins and like the dopamine that we're getting. to sustain this level of happiness, but it didn't come out of hardship. It didn't come out of like a duration of relationship that was tested and survived. It came because we just happened to be there in that moment.
Yes.
So yes, if that happens and it happens throughout the year, then you feel like, oh, those are my people. But they're really only your people if it's been tested and it survived.
Yes.
You know? So I don't think we should.
I want to add to this though. Okay. Because yes, but it's not an
yes and.
Yes, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But I think, and I definitely want to link to Yolanda's Humans of Tango interview where Liz Sabachik interviewed Yolanda Hume. She talks about she had started with her husband passed away. It was very sudden, right? And she had community, but the people that were really there for her that surprised her, it was tango. It was the tango community, and tango has become her community, right? I also think when I was a single mom, when I started dancing, right? I was a single mom for a couple of years in tango. When I moved, tango people came and moved my furniture, right? When I went through heartbreak, it was tango people that were there. Like people don't know, but like I had a very brief marriage and he cheated. Tango people were there for me, right? And it was really like I think it gives you the opportunity to be connected.
Yes, the
and
opportunity.
people have the opportunity to step up. Yes. And in my life, my lived experiences, people did show up, right? But I also showed up, right? When other people needed help moving, I showed up. Or if I couldn't, I sent my husband. He knows. He knows. You know, and like I would tap people, you know, if I really needed something, I would tap people. But I think it was relationships not built necessarily in tango. It was relationships that were built in the extracurriculars.
Adjacent to tango.
Adjacent to tango.
So right, absolutely. I totally agree that tango space gives you a lot more potential opportunities to form these deeper connections. And don't get me wrong, yes, my tango community is my community. I just get nervous when people expect it to be and it's not. That's where I'm coming from. So it's like if it is, if you needed it and it was there for you, that's amazing. And that's one thing I love about tango. Yeah. But if it wasn't there for you, I'm not going to take it out on the community because I've seen them now for 10 years and how dare they not be there for me right now.
Right.
You know? It's that's my little bug with this conversation.
Yes. Well, and I think like in the original post, he says, okay, my community, some of them have come from tango. Like, I'm not going to expect somebody I've interacted with like for 10 minutes, 10 times over 10 years to step up and be there, right? But then I also think about like you've seen a GoFundMe where tango teachers had a tragedy and they needed support. I think tango people stepped up even if they didn't even know them, right?
That's true.
So I think, Jon, I'm curious.
I'm sorry, Jon.
We've cut you out of this. So, okay, what do you think? What is your take here?
Okay, so wow, you guys talked. You guys said a lot.
We went straight for like 20.
We did. We did. All right.
So when I first saw the post, the thing that I went to was at different parts of my life what I considered to be my community and what I felt around certain people, and it became really obvious that so for a long time. I think this is true for most people, that you grow up and you go to school and you're put into an environment that's very curated for you, right? Yeah. You're in an environment where you're surrounded by people who are your age, you're in the same place in life, right? And you're in that spot for a long time.
That's true.
Right? Like from you're like 6 until 18 or whatever, and if you go to college, there's another 4 years of that exact same thing. And then so you're used to this space where you're around your peers literally for like, I mean, you're in school for like what, 7 hours a day, and then all your extracurriculars are with the same people, so you're with these people for a long time, right? And then so naturally, just by the fact that you're surrounded by them for so many hours of the day, that you're going to develop your friends, your community, what have you. Like, it doesn't even require a certain amount of intention. But then you get out into the real world, and that changes. It's like 180, like immediately, right? And and then your ability to connect with people greatly diminishes unless you put in the very specific effort yourself. And so and so specific people, if you don't have, like, we have, non-tango neighbors, right? And then we have our neighborhood block parties, and we talk to people, and it's very clear that it's like, a lot of it is, we're talking about work, we're talking about home renovations, we're talking about kids, and that's kind of our points of commonality between us and our neighbors.
Okay, so but what you're saying, it's like our shared goal in our neighborhood with our neighbors is the home value, right? We all care that our houses are appreciating, right?
And there I'm sure there's a sense of support there. If something's going to come in and disrupt that, people will probably come together, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, our neighbors, our power went out. We were in the middle of baking focaccia. They let
Not
us.
not John's famous focaccia.
John's,
Literally, people
it
come
was
to
the
us.
day of a malanga. Yes, it was. It was going to be a disaster, and thank goodness our neighbors let us use their oven because they have a generator, right? So, like, yes, they would be there for us, but it's different. Like, it's a different sense of like, it's.
But
not
if they
like this.
weren't, would you be like, oh, those? How
No.
dare they not? I thought they were my
and
neighbors.
like the neighbors on the other side
That's
probably
my
wouldn't let
point.
us use the oven, right?
That's
so it's
my
like,
point.
yes,
It's nice if you get it, but if it doesn't happen, I'm not gonna be. I'm not gonna. I'm sorry, Saeed. I'm not gonna post publicly.
We wouldn't have expectations, but that's why I think part of it is that it's a change in life phase in that example. I think the same we could say about COVID. Okay. So it was like pre-COVID, we're seeing people all the time. We take for granted we get to see our friends. They are friends. They're not just acquaintances. They are friends. And then suddenly shut down.
Yeah.
Right? It was bubbles. It was not safe to see people. It wasn't even a question. For me, there was a sense of grief. It was like, well, on one hand, I was like, okay, now I get all this time with my kids. And that was the silver lining. I was so excited for that. But I was like, oh, I can't see my friends. And like, I connected with some people online, but it's different, So if your expectation is that it continues when you're in this new phase of life and some shift has happened, a transition has happened, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
It will come back. Like now, Anya's 8. We have teenagers that can babysit. We didn't dance a lot for quite a while. Yes, those friendships, those connections got a bit looser. But now we can dance again,
or rather, you weren't in those spaces to be with those people.
Yes.
So I had a similar experience in tango, right? Because Melody, you mentioned you started with a cohort. I did as well. I was very lucky that was the case. And over the course of a couple of years, a lot of them moved away, and other things became important in their life. And I stuck around in tango. And I saw other cohorts grow in the community, but I was very aware that I was not a part of those cohorts, right? And I knew they were doing like extracurricular things that I had done with my cohorts, but I, because I wasn't in that little group within tango at that time, but I didn't. It was like obvious. It's like I understood why I wasn't, invited to those things. I certainly didn't begrudge them for excluding me or anything. It just made sense that was the dynamic at that time. So I think your place in tango evolves depending on what you put in.
Yes, that's a really good point. In that the longer you're dancing, the more likely people will have left, right? So I understand. And then you're left with like, maybe these people weren't your people when you started. And now the shared thing is you've been dancing your dinosaurs, what I call tango dinosaurs, which I'm not a tango dinosaur yet, but I think Jon is a tango dinosaur at this point.
Don't look at me. Don't point your finger at me.
There's fewer tango dinosaurs, let's say, than not.
Here's where for me, I think we have tango friends.
Yeah.
And these are people that we see in tango. We come and go when we're in tango spaces. We connect great. When we're not in tango spaces, maybe we don't even talk. And I think it's totally okay to have tango friends. We can also have friends who happen to
dance
be in tango.
Yes.
And that's different. I think sometimes we get so guilty because we're like, oh, we're not real friends yet. We don't even have each other's phone numbers, right? Yeah. I've never actually even spoken to you outside of tango. Then there's like, oh, you're not a real friend. And it's like, I think it's okay to have a tango friend and then to have your friends that are in tango.
Yeah.
And if you can convert tango friends to friends in tango, that's amazing. You can only probably truly have friends in tango, like you're limited a little bit by quantity, right? Because just bandwidth and capacity to be there for people. Yeah. But I think we should normalize that it's okay to have passing relationships in tango, and if it evolves into more, that's amazing. If it doesn't, we shouldn't feel so bad about it.
Yes, and let's also add that those are going to flex and change.
Yeah, people could jump in and out of them over time because of situations.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that they're not real friendships. They're not. Yeah, they're not. They can be very real friendships, and if somebody's just not in the same phase of life, that just changes things. So like I think it's easy to feel a sense of loss, and this is like outside of tango. It could just be that they were your friends from college, but some people had babies and some people didn't. They're gonna get naturally more distant, and then if you want it, if you stick around, they could become closer again in the future. And I think just being parents, having friends is hard. It's hard. This is why you become friends with other parents, because you're in the same place,
right?
And they you just
it's
kind of
like
understand
all of your other friends will be like, oh, let's go to this marathon together.
Yeah,
and then you're happens. Like, I can't, guys.
Yeah,
I literally have other human beings that if I leave.
Yeah, I mean,
I literally just asked you guys the other day, actually, and you were like, we can't just leave the children to fend for themselves. I
mean, even
and I was like,
no, in our backyard, we were invited to go to the marathon in our backyard, and I'm like, I can't spend that many hours dancing. I have these teenagers and this 8-year-old, and like, even if I could, it's their summer break. Like, it's at some point you start counting the summers, and it's like I only have a couple left. You have to one, try to spend time with them if they'll let you, and two, like, make sure they're not killing themselves or burning your house down. So like, that's just not the phase of life right now.
So what's our verdicts?
Our verdict
is tango community your community?
It can be.
If you want it. First, it depends on what community you mean.
Yes.
And if you mean a community of people that you have a shared experience with and you can tap into that experience every now and then yes. If you mean a community that supports you on a deeper level, then it can be if you nurture it both ways.
Yes. Yes. And I want to add to that if you listen, I just loved the Humans of Tango podcast episode with Yolanda. I really did. The thing that we should also keep in mind, she says, yes, it is my community, but Yolanda gives to that community. So it is, are you giving to it? Are you putting in? And that can be hard sometimes. Sometimes it can feel like you're giving and not receiving. But I believe that if you still keep giving, it is there for you then too.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope that you give because in the giving, that fulfills you.
Yeah.
And if you happen to receive, that's a nice bonus.
Yeah.
But if you're giving and you feel like you're not receiving and then now you feel disgruntled, then you weren't truly giving.
Yeah.
In my unsolicited opinion.
Or were you giving with the expectations
of receiving?
Receive, and then that's not. Yeah.
I still think though that there's a deeper question here about,
are these relationships real? Is what's happening in the embrace
what happens on the dance floor and in the embrace, and how that can mess you up mentally, because it's like, how deep was that connection?
Okay,
how real is that connection?
That's
can you, if it was real, how can you just walk off the dance floor and go about your business? Can you even do that? I want to talk about that, Melody. Jon,
okay.
When are we going to talk about that?
Okay, that's going on the agenda. That's coming up. So, notes? All right. So if you are listening, here's our next question for you. Mm-hmm. Is what is happening on the dance floor real? Mm. Yeah. Tell us what you know. Tell us what you think.
Tell us what you feel.
What's your experience?
A little anecdote for me. And you guys were talking about like you get what you put in.
Yeah.
There was definitely a point where, so I was going through a breakup, and I realized very, very quickly after that my world at that point was very, very small. It was very tiny, and I didn't like it, and I wanted to just get out there and meet people and like just feel like I had opportunities like socially and as a community. So I was very intentional about trying to talk to people and meet people and like add people on Facebook as friends essentially, and which essentially that part of that process was how I met Melody, which is it was awesome. And when you
wait, guys, every time you tell your origin story, it's always a different story.
No,
I need you to get this straight. Because you said you met at a milonga.
We did.
And someone had said, was asking you to dance with her.
Okay, I'll tell. No. I'll tell part 2 of that.
Okay.
He ignored my cavaseo. We talked about this.
And then
he asked me to dance.
And did you later?
And then we sat down and we happened to have the exact same phone case. And so he was like, "Why do you have my phone?" And I was like, "That's my phone." But then
I feel like that's such a Jon thing to say.
It is such a Jon thing to say. No, but then
the person.
But then he was so smooth. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to add you on Facebook." And he added me right away.
What was that?
Right away. No, he just
that was no segue. Asked. That's not smooth.
Well, clearly, because he was smooth. Because then he followed up.
He was already enthralled by you, Jon. Like she didn't even realize that was such an awkward jump in conversation.
No, I had written him off. Because I was like, this guy's younger than me. He doesn't have kids. He's never been married. And those were like, in my mind, I was like, whoever I end up with will always be older, have been married, and probably have kids. And so I was like, this young guy, because he's younger than me.
You don't need another kid.
And and
little did you know.
Well, little did I know.
He was the one to take care of you.
That's right. That's right.
I feel all kinds of... Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Very insightful.
Yes,
Jon. I got the butterflies.
Okay. From our segue, yes.
So, I had like laid out this plan because that's kind of the kind of person I am. I was like, I'm going to travel for tango. I want to like get out there and go at least once a month, if not like once every 2 weeks, to go to a festival or a marathon or something. And I remember I had asked my friends, like my tango friends at that time, it's like, hey, like, is there stuff you guys are going to? And they were like, oh yeah, we have this thing in Buffalo, we have this thing in Toronto. And I was really nervous to go. I was like, I hadn't traveled for tango in a long time. I was like, what is this scene going to be like? And I went to, I think I went to Esso. It was like one of the first things I went to after that breakup. And I ran into some people I hadn't seen since I'd like met them in Australia like 10 years before that or something. It was really random. And it was awesome. And then part of that was I met Melody and Amanda, you said about this phone, not knowing people's phone numbers. I actually didn't have Melody's phone number.
That's
until
true.
After we started officially dating.
After we had started our relationship, actually. Yeah.
So
he messaged me on Facebook. He's like, hey, can you send me your phone number? It was like, yeah. So maybe that's just the modern world we live in, that we can still connect. Yeah. But that's interesting because there had been a lapse, right? Friendships had grown distance. But then he showed up and it was like, we already, we have some background.
And I have to say, I really appreciate your mentality there, Jon. You didn't say, oh, well, where are all of those people at? You were like, you know what? Let me go out there and make some friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, I think we have more to say on this. We have more to say about relationships.
Yes.
We have more to say about
traveling.
What's happening on the floor real?
Yeah, that too.
And marathons.
Is it chemistry or is it connection?
Or is it all fake?
Is it the same thing?
Yeah. All right. So leave us some comments. And we never say this, but it would be awesome if you interacted with our content. It would help other people see it. Subscribe, maybe. Then you'll
let us know. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Few people do reach out individually and let us know that they really like what we're saying. And that just gives me more fuel and drive.
Wonderful.
And it's not because like we need the validation per se, but it's good to know that what we're saying is either resonating with people or it's helpful for people.
Yeah.
So if it is for you, just let us know so we can keep creating similar content and keep finding more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah. And if there's something you want us to talk about.
This is how we keep our relationships real, by connecting with everybody that we can through this podcast when we can't see them on the dance floor.
That's very true. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, until the next one.
With real coffee next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Staying Grounded. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and spread the word.
We'll catch you next time.